Hi guys, it's Miss Sissy here with Cycle 1, Week 5. This is mostly going to be geared towards the master's class. If you are looking for younger classes, then I will link down below to my Week 5 video from the last time through Cycle 1 when I had the younger kids. And I have had a few people ask what I mean by masters. If you are new to CC or maybe your campus divides up differently, there are 4 different kind of levels based upon age, and we kind of label our classes by that. So the littlest age, which is 4 to 5, is the Abecedarians. The next age, which is like 6 to 7, are the apprentices. The age after that, which is like 8, 9, are the journeymen, and then the masters are our oldest kids, which are 10, 11, 12, somewhere around in there. And those aren't exact, but those are just kind of how CC has labeled each of those age groups. And so when I talk about the masters, I'm talking about the kids on the upper end. Most of them are in essentials. I'm getting ready to go into Challenge A and the next year, the next few years. So that's what I mean when I say masters. This is not necessarily for memory masters, so there's a difference there. So anyway, all right, we'll jump right in with geography. So I'm finding with having the older kids that geography goes so much more quickly than with the younger kids because they're able to find things on a map, they find it quickly, and they remember the locations. Again, most of my kids have had Cycle 1 before, so a lot of these places are not completely new to them. But if you are doing it and you want to use some hand motions, if you make an E for Egypt, it does kind of look like the shape of Egypt where it's smaller at the top and then kind of has a little bump out at the bottom. And then you have the Nile River, which runs down through. And you have Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. I did that wrong on the other video, so it was late when I did it. And then you put your fingers up and you have the Nile River Delta. So for my kids today, I had them outline Egypt. We talked about the Nile and how the Nile actually runs up into the Mediterranean instead of down. And we drew an up arrow in the lower part of Egypt for Upper Egypt because it's backwards, and then we drew a down arrow in the northern, I'll say northern and southern, that'll work better, the northern part of Egypt for Lower Egypt, and then we just traced in where the Nile River Delta was as well. So we went over that a few times, and because geography doesn't take us quite as long and we already have our maps out, I'm using some time from New Grammar to go ahead and review all of our geography, especially because it's right kind of in the same area together. And so I talked about, okay, the Nile River is going into the what sea? The Mediterranean Sea, and Egypt runs along our red, we call it the Red Sea slug, but because it looks like a slug. So we talk about that it's right along the Red Sea, and the Red Sea, next to that we have the Persian Gulf, and what's in between there, the Arabian Desert. And we just kind of go over most of our locations, maybe not every single one, but we try to go over all of those so we're getting our geography review in while we already have our maps out. Now, if you do have younger ones or you have a class that's newer, maybe don't do that because I think it could get a little confusing with the new locations. Just focus on those. But if you have a class that's been through it or are very, we'll call them map able, then I would maybe go ahead and do a review just to get it out of the way while your maps are out. So that was geography. Then while they still had their dry erase markers out, I printed out math facts wheels. So if you haven't seen these before, there's lots of different versions out there, but it's basically your math facts. This one adds in 0, which is nice. So 0 all the way to 15. So you put the number you're doing. So this week we had the 9s and the 10s. So you put 9 in there and then you write in the answer. So 9 times 0 is 0. 9 times 1 is 9. And have them write in all the way around there. So I had them fill that all the way in with their 9s while I was saying them, and then I timed them to see how quickly they could fill them in, and then I kind of asked random 1s on there. Then we sang the skip counting song a couple of times. For our 10s, we didn't do it the 7 times because they all know their 10s. So we did go over them a few times, said them through like I'm supposed to, chanted them. I talked about how anytime you multiply anything by 10, you just basically add a 0 on the end. They all get the concept of that. So we didn't spend a ton of time on 10s. We focused mainly on the 9s. So that was what we did for that. Then, so these are like shop ticket holders. So on the back of that, again, just trying to save time, I just had them turn them over, and I printed this page. I just copied it straight from the guide. It's page 64 in your guide, and it has the full list of prepositions that they'll be learning this year. It also has the definition of a preposition from week 1. So my kids really are determined to learn the whole list this year. Some of them already know the whole list, but there's a few of them that like they really want to get it down. And so we have been using our time and just going over the entire list and chanting it. We do break it down, of course, and go over specifically what we have for the week, but then we've been going through and just drilling those in. So if you are wanting to use hand motions for this week, we start with between. So we're gonna point right between our forehead, like hit me between the eyes. Then we're gonna take that hand and point out beyond. And then you're gonna take your hand will be extended, but you're going to hold your hand up like this for but, flip it around for bye, like you're waving bye. And then concerning, you'll put your hands over your heart, like, oh, bless your heart, that's so concerning. That's what we said in class today. So we do those a few times, but then like I said, we've been chanting just the entire preposition song. They're gonna really have it down by the end of it, is my goal. So we do also, again, use this time to go ahead and say, what is a preposition? Because it's right there, and get that review. And well, we moved on from that and went to timeline. So I've tried to do a few different things for timeline. So I went back to my bomb game. If you aren't familiar with that, I'll briefly describe it. So you have all of your 7 timeline cards. Before class, I pre-chose 3 cards where I put a sticker on the back of. So the cards with the sticker are the bombs. And this week I upped the stakes. Someone gave me the idea to give them candy. And so I brought in they had requested some chocolate. So I brought in chocolates. They each got 3 chocolates because there are 3 bombs. If they hit a bomb, they had to give me one of their chocolates, and they got to keep, if they made it to the end and there were only bombs left, they got to keep whatever chocolate was left. So unfortunately they hit all 3 bombs. So they had to give me all their chocolate back, but I let them earn some back in review, so it was fine. But what you'll do is you would lay the cards out, and each kid takes a turn picking a card. So once they're laid out, they might come up and they might say, okay, I want Roman Republic. So they grab it, turn it over, and oh, you're good, Roman Republic is good. Then they would come up and maybe one would grab and they decide they want Peloponnesian Wars, turn over, oh, there's a bomb, you have to give me a piece of chocolate. So that's just how you play the timeline game. We do go over it, sing through it before we play the game, but that's how you do that. Then for science this week, I didn't get them out here. I made a matching game for them because it's a pretty long list. And I knew that most of the rest of this wasn't going to take us a ton of time. So I just put these on cards, and there's 2 of each of them. And we laid them out on the table, and they played like you just flip over and try to find a match. So every time they flipped them over, we said whatever words were on it. So if they flipped over mollusk and sea stars, then we said mollusk and sea stars. So we kind of got them a lot. If I had a star in there, and oh yeah, so review, they did earn chocolate, but this was how they earned it back. If when they flipped over a star, everybody got a piece of chocolate today. So we had segmented worms. If they flipped that one over and then they got a match, then we just left it flipped over. It wasn't anybody trying to win. We were just trying to get them all together, all matched. So that's what we did for science. For Latin, we just chanted and sang through it. Again, mine have been through this a few times, so they are familiar with these. But we did talk about how we can't talk today. We focused on how to pronounce them, how they're slightly different than first declensions, so that we have e orum and not arum, and that we have us, e, o, o. So just focusing on the differences in the sound there. Obviously, none of us actually speak Latin, so we don't exactly know how they're pronounced, but I want them to be able to differentiate by sound which one they are doing. So that's what we did for Latin. For history, sorry, I'm getting a phone call. For history, I wrote a funny sentence up on my history thing, and it was great because none of them noticed that none of the words made sense until we actually got to history. I did it Star Wars theme because I have 5 boys, and at least 2 of the girls in my class I know like Star Wars. One of them, I'm sure she's familiar, but doesn't love it probably. But so I will read you what I wrote the history sentence as for this week, and we'll talk about what I replaced. So I wrote, the rebel resistance became the Galactic Empire when Anakin was crowned emperor in R2-D2. This was followed by the Jedi Council in C-3PO. Oh, this was followed by the Jedi Council. In C-3PO, the Empire divided into the Wookiee and the Ewok empires until Jabba the Hutt defeated the Wookiee Empire in BB-8. So obviously it doesn't have to make sense at all. You're just replacing it with funny words. You could replace it with any kind of words. You could do fairy tale characters. You could have no theme at all and just do random words. So I had this written up on the board, and then we listened to the song where they read it and then she sings it. And I had them that once we listened to it, go around the class and each tell me something that we needed to correct. And then we corrected it up on the board. So for example, I pointed to the first kid and they were like, all right, Jedi Council needs to be Pax Romana. So I would erase Jedi Council and write in Pax Romana, and then just went around the room. The hardest ones were the dates because they're just kind of feel very random, and they don't really rhyme with anything else. So those were the ones at the end that were kind of hard. And yeah, so we just went around and replaced the words one by one. They didn't have to replay it, I don't think. They got to hear it 3 times that way. So, oh, excuse me. So then we read through it at the very end once we fixed everything. So that was what we did for week 5 for the masters. Really fast with science. If you like to bring the science card in, card number 8 is about invertebrates. It doesn't have all of them on the back. It just talks about a few of them. But if you want to dig in a little bit deeper with science, oh, it does have them all listed up here. It just doesn't talk about all of them here. Then you can use card number 8 from cycle 1 science cards. So anyway, I hope you guys have an awesome week. I'll be back next week for week 6, and then we do have a 2-week fall break. So I will be not here for that time. So I hope I don't get behind a lot of you. If we do, I will try to get something out more quickly. Maybe if I can. I'm really bad about that. So anyway, hope you guys have an awesome week. I will see you next week. Bye.